here we have a quorum.
I'm a minute early.
So let me just, before Denny calls us to order, let me just tell you, again, we have a temporary portable mic system because something broke. And so this control here of mute everybody doesn't work, so each mic is muted. So in order to, when you talk, please unmute your mic. So Denny, anytime you're ready.
Okay, call the meeting to order. We have roll call for the library, please, Kevin.
Okay, we have 3 members present, and we're still waiting on Susan Sharks to show up, and members Temple and Shears are excused.
Okay, thank you. Any additions or corrections to the agenda? Seeing none, I'll request a motion to approve the agenda as written.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carried. On to the minutes of the last meeting. Have you all had a chance to read through those?
I did.
Any questions of the minutes? Seeing none, I'll seek a motion.
I'll move to accept the minutes.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed and carried.
I think the two of you are going to be going back and forth with motions and seconds.
On to the director's report, Kevin.
Okay. Director's report, I have the written report there. I'll just highlight that we do have our new maintenance, building maintenance tech who started in February. So we're glad to have that position filled and have full-time cleaning again of the library. So, and Quincy's been busy. He's done some touch-up painting and he's done some repairs that found a water leak in the ductwork. So that was just dripping water onto the ceiling tile, and so hopefully we won't have stains on those ceiling tile. Maybe other ceiling tile, but at least those. Hopefully we got that taken care of. So, and I'll just an update on the supplemental budget request. The City Council did have their first reading of the supplemental budget ordinance, and they passed the first reading. It passed on first reading. So at the next meeting, they'll have the second reading of that. And so I know there weren't any questions regarding the library portion of it. So those 2 items appear to be on their way to being approved. So. So for the sign, then I'm expecting that we will we'll have the funding from the city for half of that. So I today stopped at Sign Pros, because I had gotten the original bid from a company in Sioux Falls, and so I went to Sign Pros today and talked to them about getting a bid on a sign. So
Electronic one, right?
yeah, and they're right across the street from John Paul II, and John Paul II has a similar sign to what First Lutheran, and he was aware of First Lutheran sign too. That was kind of the model that I used. The company from Sioux Falls had installed the First Lutheran sign, but he was aware, so it'll be very similar. So he said it'll probably be week and a half or so before he'll get it to me. And then a couple, I have a couple updates there on the legislative session. The state library budget was cut, not as much as originally proposed in Governor Nome, by Governor Nome. But there will still be 3 positions cut at the state library, but other and then other funding, but they restored enough funding to also match, the match requirement for federal Institute of Museum Library Services funding. But then last Friday, the president, issued an executive order, that now he's identifying more agencies to cut, and IMLS is one of those. So the library world doesn't know what's going to happen to federal funding. The federal funding to the state libraries, what pays for, the database, statewide databases, the interlibrary loan, a lot of the interlibrary loan services, the courier that goes between all the community libraries, the software for the statewide interlibrary loan borrowing, and so more to come on that. And then for HB 1239, at least for another year, you won't have to worry about, having criminal librarians. So we're thankful for that.
What is their point? I mean, seriously? They're going to charge, if
Well,
I read it right, they could charge you criminally for allowing my
Well, but they could
13
charge you criminally as well, and you criminally as well, although I think it's probably geared more towards school, K-12
Okay.
educator, but educators were also part of that.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that affirmative defense, was basically to protect academic freedom. And, if you were to, in your high school English class, cover a book and have your students read a book that then maybe a parent complained about, didn't like some, passage or whatever, that would have protected you as well. And it protects librarians and museum workers, that may have, artwork that somebody may find
They amended
offended.
that though, correct?
Well, it was hog-housed, so it was completely amended from the original. After it passed the House and passed the Senate Judiciary Committee, then on the Senate floor, the senator from Huron amended it and completely changed it to basically add on to what they did last year of requiring in the review process of a complaint on a book that the policy, libraries have to have policies that would allow for an appeal to, and this is what I have to talk to Justin about, an appeal to the governing body of the public library. And as it is referred to in the bill,
It says the library board or something.
well, no, the definition in that statute, the governing body is the elected city council. So I'll have to find out from Justin, our city attorney, for his interpretation of that, is having the library board be the final appeal, or because of that, would we have to then allow an appeal to the city council, which, I think the library board would do a thorough job of, reviewing any material that would be challenged and read the entire thing. I'm not as sure that the city
I would think
council
it'd be
members.
either or though, because that's adding a whole nother level
Well,
of appeal.
Yeah.
If
So-
you have to go through two.
And then, then that bill also specifically states that people then can, right now, our policy states that then the library board's decision is the final decision. But that bill that was passed, I don't know that the governor has signed it yet, allows for an appeal to the courts. So,
As it was originally written, I understand it could hold employees criminally liable.
Well, yeah, as it was originally written,
So how would that have fit in with the library board? Would we be also criminally liable or only employees?
But we're not
I think,
employees.
yeah, you're not employees.
Yeah, we're not employees, right.
Yeah, so I think it would have been just, yeah, an employee. And, it's not really fair to employees either, because and it's all employees, and our part-time employees don't make decisions on purchases. And, a lot of times.
They were talking about not just purchases, though, as in checking out material. Well, you can't, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, the material that they check out was purchased, the selection was
Right.
made by somebody, and we make our selections based on, reviews. I mean, you can't read a new book before it's
Right,
published,
and
but.
not every
but peop-
librarian can read every book. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
and,
just
yeah, and
insane.
so, so, anyway, Senator Thomas Kimmons called me on Saturday and informed me, that, the original supporters, sponsor of the original 1239, vowed after the vote that they will be bringing, that bill back next year. So, and so he said, we all need to work together, to come up with a plan for procedures that, will work and be satisfactory to everybody. So, I mean, this issue won't go away.
What is the issue with the person sponsoring the bill? I mean, she must obviously have some,
Well,
what do you want to say, axe to grind on?
well, I mean, some things that I've read is that, after the affirmative defense is removed, then they can then they can bring, the following year, bring additional restrictions. It's easier then to do additional restrictions and, start banning books or whatever, so.
And this isn't just in South Dakota, obviously.
No, I mean, there were multiple states where similar bills were introduced, this legislative season,
It's
so,
going to scare educators right out of the system.
yeah.
I mean, they're not going to risk their,
And, yeah, and it, again, that affirmative defense was for librarians, educators, and museum workers, and museum curators. But interestingly enough, I watched the House debate, and the sponsor, said, well, this isn't going to affect everything, and, we want to treat everybody the same, just like, well, there still is a part of that original law also, in a separate section, included employees of movie theaters who didn't own the theater, that they had the affirmative defense. So they still are covered. So if you turn on a movie that, start the projector showing an R-rated or an X-rated movie, you're still okay. So anyway. So that was pretty much, and then strategic planning, unless you have any other questions, strategic planning, that is on the agenda, the plan is there. And then both Max and Jean provided written reports that, do you have any questions about what they had to say? And then I'll just move on to the for some reason, I got the order of the graph and table switched this month, but I'll just point out that for the first 2 months of 2025, I mean, our average circulation for each month was 13,480, which is almost 1,000 more per month than the average of last year. So we're with Bookopoly, you know, gives us a good start to circulation for the new year. So that's, I guess, the things that I will highlight in the report. And are there any questions?
I don't see any.
I didn't print those. I looked at them, but
Okay.
I didn't see anything that jumped at me.
Just from, I guess I will say from Jean Patrick's report, you know, she held a kind of an art creativity day on a Saturday in February, and I mean, there were over 200 people who came to it.
Oh,
So,
my goodness.
yeah, I mean, that was, so I'm also expecting, you know, this summer's reading program theme is, you know, color my world or color our world, and, you know, which will lend itself to artsy type activities. And I mean, it seems that the arts activities attract people. So, I mean, I think she'll be able to have some good participation this summer as well, based on even that one activity in February. So nothing more from me, Denny.
Okay. Seek a motion, do we approve the director's report?
Yeah, we always,
usually-
yeah, we
usually-
normally approve.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passed. On to the financial report.
Okay, I don't have any bills to submit. Bank account statement for January and for February, and so at the end of February, the bank account was at 108,692. And I know, I just looked, it's up to, with what we've had deposited so far this month, it's up to 110. So, I mean, we have money to spend, and so with the digital sign plan, that'll be good. And then the statements for, you know, what has come into the board account in January and February are there. In January, the net income was $966.26, and in February, the net income was $903.91. So, you know, for both months, it was less than the previous year, but I think that was because maybe we had some expenses. Yeah, we paid for some expenses already in January that we didn't last year. And
Book sale, that's just incredible every month.
yeah, I mean, when I start, well, I mean, we are in 2020, you know, we are still we are in the thick of the
Right.
pandemic, but, you know, we were doing about 300 a month, and so, you know, now we're more regularly in the 600.
I think it's
Some items are
amazing.
sold 2 to 3 times.
Yeah.
They buy them and bring them back.
Bring them back, yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
I think it's amazing that the book sale prices or revenues have gone up along with circulation.
Yeah.
It's not like the book sale replaced circulation.
Right.
And, well, you know, and we raised prices a year ago when we implemented the sales tax too, and we just folded the sales tax into the price, but, you know, still, you know, I think our prices are lower than if you went to the stores that sell used books in Sioux Falls. And as Denny says, a number of people will buy books,
Bring them back.
and then they'll bring them back and donate them, and we'll resell them again. So, you know. So I know that Joan Heemstra's, you know, goal is to like have 10,000 in sales a year. We didn't, but, you know, we had like, I think 9,000 or so last year. So, and then, I mean, we're 2.5 months into, this is through February for the city budget, so, you know, I think we're on track. I mean, okay, with their, I mean, for salary, I mean, for salaries, you know, it's about 2 months, we're about 13% into it. So I guess I use that look for our book budget, we've already spent about 14%. So, I mean, we're kind of on track, you know, of what we should be spending on a monthly basis. So that's the financial reports.
Okay. Anyone have any questions of Kevin on the financials? If not, I'll seek a motion to approve.
So moved.
And I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed and carried. Business items.
First, the annual survey of South Dakota Public Libraries, which the state library, that's one of their responsibilities of collecting this information and then passing it on to Institute of Museum and Library Services, IMLS. And one thing that I have to certify in here is that the board, or at least the president, but the board reviewed the data, and the city as well. And last Friday, Stephanie let me know that she's reviewed it. So, you know, it's things pretty much the same that we every year have, you know, same things. The first section's kind of general information, you know, our population that we serve, so the city, the county, what we charge non-residents for a library card, what are our hours, so those are there. And then the next section is personnel, how many, you know, my salary, how many years I've been working, and my degree, and then other librarians, and the hours worked, our total FTE, 8.63. That also includes our building maintenance person and our part-time staff. Total, they want to know total number of masters, ALA, Master of Library Science, employees, how many hours, you know, those work. So that would be myself and Max has one. It's kind of funny that they don't ask, you know, if any other masters prepared, because Jean Patrick has a master's in English. Then also volunteers, and then our budget, our revenue, the revenue side, so how much we get from the city, how much we get from county, and, you know, we don't get any from the school district or tribal appropriations. And then the other operating income is what we take in that goes into the board account. So for 2024, that was 23,802, that we have available. And then the expenditure side of things, broken down by, staff compensation, and then collection expenditures, print, electronic, so those numbers are theirs, and then all other operating expenditures, which, is a catch-all of supplies, maintenance, utilities, so that's that 88,725. So the total expenditures for 2024 were 798,844. And then the capital expenditures, these were actually then were rolled over from 2023, money that we spent from a grant that we bought some furniture. Then the next section asks about our holdings, books, magazines, audio items, so all of our physical items, so 71,352. And then circulation of those items, so, that was 102,370 is what we had for 2024. And just as an aside, next Tuesday, the mayor is going to be doing a State of the City speech at Mitchell Tech's amphitheater, and I know he's going to include library circulation in that, and show some graphics of that. And then they asked to break out circulation of children's physical materials. So, well over 50% of our total physical circulation is children's materials. And then they ask about electronic circulation. So that totaled, for us, it's ebooks and e-audio books. So that totaled 4771, and then our total circulation of 150,141. And then they ask how we provide access, from the library or from a consortium collective, or provided by the South Dakota State Library. And so, some of these, for that first one, ebooks, the state library puts in money to South Dakota Titles to Go, and other libraries do too, and so do we. So those are those yes and no's there. And then questions about interlibrary loan, resource sharing, how many items we borrowed from other libraries, 301. We lend more than we borrow. So, but we had 301 items borrowed from other libraries last year, and they break it out by out-of-state and in-state, and then how many items we loan to other libraries. And so we loan 618.
When you say out-of-state, that's the interlibrary loan kind of thing?
Yeah, and that, libraries from other states, we get requests from them.
Do they request unique items to South Dakota or to Mitchell, or?
It's a variety.
Okay.
Some of the items that we check out are, older fiction, or, even some older nonfiction that, other libraries have maybe weeded, that, we have retained yet. But then, it seems there are a few, there's like one or two academic libraries out east, like the University of Maryland. I will maybe once a month get a request from them for a brand new work of fiction, that we have that they haven't purchased yet. Well, and we don't send new books out. We don't send things out for maybe, unless they're 3 months old or so. And if it's more popular, older than that. So, so that's just the number of items we actually lent and borrowed, and not the number of requests that weren't filled. And then they have questions for service activities, how many library card holders we have, and then total attendance, people who came into the library, how we got to that number, and then the total number of reference questions that we asked. And that's kind of the one item that we estimate. We don't tally every single question. We take, and they allow us to do that, and that's an option of an annual estimate. If we take a typical week and count the number of questions that we answered, and then we multiply by 52. And then they break down the attendance at program, then programs, how many programs for, age, at the different ages and the attendance for those. So for children's age preschool, we had 113 programs with attendance of 3626. A lot of that is weekly story time and Saturday story time. For children's 6 to 11, 62 events with over 4,000 in attendance. Young adult, and I expect that to be higher next year. Only 8 programs with only 27. That's something we have written into our strategic plan of offering more and focusing on that. And then adults, we had 29 programs with 174 in attendance. And then general interest it could be of interest to any age group. So that's kind of a catch-all. So that's there. And then total programs, total attendance. Now that we can do live in-person programs, we don't take the time to do online programs. And this -1 that's just how they fill out. If we didn't have any one-on-one programs, we were supposed to select that option to answer. And then passive activities are kind of take and make. So, we had 35 passive activities with nearly 5,800 people participating in those. And then how many computers we have, how many sessions on those computers, Wi-Fi service, how many wireless sessions that we have. And again, those thanks to the state library, and another service they provide is the wireless sessions. They pay for a service that then connects to our wireless network and scrapes off the data. And so we have that information of 17,563 wireless sessions for last year. And then policies, automation system, and then the trustees are there, and library board appointees, who does it, meetings, when do we meet, do we have friends of the library, and then anything of noteworthiness for the last year. And for this I put that we started offering 3D printing services. Did we have any? And then every year they ask some supplemental questions, and so this year they asked if we had any challenges, and we did not. Haven't had any challenges since I started, which I'm thankful for. Do we have filtering software? That relates to the law that was passed a year ago in the 2024 legislative session. And do we have a reconsideration policy? And does it include a policy restricting minors' access to obscene materials? And where is that published? And then the certification. So who filled this out? Certification by the library board. And so here I have to put in, the date today, I have to put it, and I put this in already, I put this into the packet before I heard from Stephanie that she had reviewed it. And then some ratios, they just take our data and then this kind of just populates. And so,
I was looking at those. Which ones matter to you? Which ones do you look at as indicators?
to be honest, for these, these I don't, this isn't important to me.
Okay.
For this reason, this is statewide average, so this is averaging Sioux Falls and Redfield, where, you know, I prefer once they compile all this data and make it available to all of us, then I like downloading that, and then separating out Yankton, Huron, Pier, Brookings, Aberdeen, Mitchell, so that I can compare us to the similar sized libraries.
Gotcha.
But, I mean, it's interesting, but, yeah,
Yeah, I was just trying to make meaning of it, and I didn't know.
yeah,
what
because,
to
you know,
be
when
looking
I've compared
for.
ourselves to, you know, like Huron, you know, here we look great, like for financial measures, you know, but then when we compare ourselves to Huron, you know, their local government per capita, you know, revenue is higher than ours, so.
Sure.
So that, and then just, so that's that. So any questions about that? I mean, I don't think we have to have a formal vote, just I can certify that now the board has reviewed it. And again, if you have any questions, I can certainly answer them.
In the future, will the state library still be required to receive this data and work with it every year?
Yes, because I think it was House Bill 1410, or I don't remember the number, but it was the companion bill that along with the budget proposal, that it was a bill that would have removed some of the state libraries' responsibilities. And, you know, that was one thing that in the original bill was removed, was collecting statewide data. But because of the additional, or the funding that they did come up with and the compromise, then they left that, they added that back in. But, you know, that's a reason that they have to do this and collect it and then pass it on to IMLS, to the feds, is because we receive federal money. If there's no federal money going to be available, then they don't have to collect it and submit it to the federal government. But I sure hope that they continue to collect this, because it's still useful information to see how libraries in South Dakota are doing.
Some of the programs are federally matched, aren't they? For the state library, I mean, like if the state puts so much money into, I can't think.
Well, it's the state has, for that match, it's not a 1-to-1, it's like it's a 25% match or something. I mean, so, you know, we get over $1 million, to get over $1 million in federal funding for the state library, I think we have to have like 200, you know, it's like a quarter of what we get. You know, we have to put in 250,000 or something to get $1 million.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty good. You know, we get 4-to-1 return on our money. So I don't know that we need
No,
I'll just say that was reviewed. And then
On to funding requests.
okay, so I have 3 funding requests. You all, I think I've told you that, you know, we had a funding request to the city for money to put track lighting along the, you know, perimeter soffit in the building But then I was thinking a month ago or so, that before we install that lighting, it's been almost 10 years, and it's really dark, and it would probably help to lighten things up if we painted the bottom side of that soffit like a ceiling white to match the ceiling tile. And it would be a lot easier to do the painting before we install the lights. And so I hadn't thought of that, for when I submitted the funding request to the city for the budget. So I thought I'd come to the board to ask if we could have $500 to buy 10 gallons of paint. Quincy figured out how many square feet it would be and how much paint it would take, and got pricing. So about $400 in paint and $100 in supplies. And then Max is asking for, for his request, I rounded it up to 400. He's requesting either 380 or 354. And, his explanation was that, in his now first 6 months, he's kind of struggled with getting teens to come in and do things, and so was wondering if we had one big prize for summer reading that all of the people who participate and complete summer reading could go into a drawing for either this GoPro Hero 12 bundle or an XP Pen Artist 13.3 Pro V2 with a perpetual license for Clip Studio Paint. That's that. Any questions on either of those two? And then Jean is asking for $400. Oops. That $400 should not be to purchase paint and supplies. I copied. Sorry, I got $400 to
Magic.
For the 605 Magic Art Bus. She's partnering with the Mitchell Area Council for the Arts, is wanting to bring the bus here to the library and partner with us, and they would do 2-hour session, provide a 2-hour session. Last year, Jean had the bus here, and it was very popular. She had, 2-hour sessions, and so she would like to, and it was popular, she would like to have a second 2-hour session there. And so the Arts Council would pay for the first 2 hours, and then we would pay for the second one. And this would be planned for sometime in May, tentatively May 17th, which she said would be kind of a good gearing up to summer reading, and, with the theme Coloring Your World. So
How is that made known to the public, I guess?
well,
Publicized.
we will do, our Facebook, and, Jean is very good at publicizing her events. And she would do what she does for summer reading too, of getting the word out. That, again, last summer when she had this art bus come, I don't remember what, but it was, I don't remember how many exactly, but it was a good number of participants who went through the bus. So she just thought, because of that popularity last year, if we have a group willing to bring the bus in for 2 hours, but it would probably be better to have it for an additional 2 hours because of how popular it was last year.
Did she have flyers last year or something that?
Yeah, she has always, she has flyers, she put, there are a lot of people who, also follow the Facebook page to find, what's going on, especially in the summer reading. We'll put it on our webpage, we'll put it on the chamber calendar.
I just
you know,
think it'd be
the,
great to get it on the radio and.
yeah,
And.
that's, and
'cause
that's, and in
people
the.
do listen to that since we don't really have a newspaper every day and people don't.
Yeah. And we also put it in, normally, you know, the second page of the newspaper, you know, what's going on today or tomorrow. So all of those things.
Kevin, does the library have an Instagram account?
Do we have not yet, and that's, no.
I was just thinking.
Part of, one of the items in the strategic plan is to investigate and determine a second social media platform to use.
I'm
So,
just thinking that to get the teens in there in addition to the prizes, maybe they're all on Instagram.
Yeah. So, I
All
mean,
the old
that,
people like us are on Facebook, speaking for myself.
Mhm.
We're on Facebook, but the younger people are on Instagram.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, and that's part of the strategic plan, to decide which one to do. But we're not there yet.
Gotcha.
I need you all to also approve this strategic plan so that we can then. So,
I move to approve the funding requests.
okay,
Do I hear a second? Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Sorry. I think
Opposed?
also if we're
Yeah.
going to go with that big prize, which is fine, if that's not going to change anything, then that's probably not in the future,
yeah,
you know, to have a $400 prize if we don't increase, you know what I'm saying? the
yes. I mean,
participation.
I told Max that I'll submit it, and we'll see what the board, because I was a bit hesitant to, you know, but his reasoning was to try something to see if we can, if that would entice more teens to.
Because we'll still
to
have
do.
all the little prizes that we've approved.
Yeah,
and-
yeah, yeah,
It might be a nice way to launch an Instagram page with a big splash. Or whatever platform you choose to go
Yeah.
with. Or TikTok.
I don't have TikTok,
I don't either.
but kids do.
Okay, action on the strategic plan.
Okay, so the strategic plan committee met in the last week of February and finalized, approved the draft of the strategic plan. And so it was ready to bring to the board for the board's approval. So this is what the committee came up with. And it's kind of, there are two copies of this. The first copy is, you know, just, and we looked at this at our January meeting, the goals and then the strategies to achieve those goals. And this first rendition would be what we would put on our website to publish our plan of you know, what's in it. And then the second copy rendition is a more detailed kind of working plan of, kind of implementation plan of what we will do, and, you know, with kind of the benchmarks and timelines of what we plan to work on when, and you know, and even we will probably, according to George, you know, come up with even a third working copy of this that will be more detailed of, you know, who's going to work on what and do that. But this is then our kind of our guiding implementation plan. So for improving marketing advocacy, install the digital sign, and so we have the funding working its way to be approved for that from the city, and the board has indicated that they will support paying the other half. And that, the benchmark is it's installed. When it's complete, it's installed and up and running.
You're saying this is a working document, so then as that's installed, that comes off, and then.
Yeah. Then we would
possible
add.
New goals or.
Yeah. Strategy 2 for provide how-to information on the library's website. So we would determine which how-to questions get asked the most and what would be helpful is either a print document or a video format, and then we create those. And for, since this is a 2025 to 2028 plan, this was something that we said, it's not going to be completed by this month of 2026, kind of an ongoing thing, because we may have a new question that comes up. So we publish these, through 2028. We would work on this kind of through the whole 3 years of this plan. Promote the library on an additional social media channel. So we may want to, the dates here are when we definitely want to have it achieved. But that doesn't mean that we won't work on it and maybe get it done sooner. So, in terms of your questions about it.
I'm thinking some of the teens might even want to help you.
Yeah. Well, and probably, one thing, to me, Instagram's probably the one that makes the most sense in terms of what will it take to put content on both. Because we could, some of the things we can push to Facebook and to Instagram since they're both a Facebook product.
Right.
So, so this may be done, but then we say that it's achieved when we have 300 followers. So, we may have to work longer. Once we start posting things, then we'll be having to work
You say
to.
we, so will there be one person in charge of that, or all the library employees are
Well,
going to be? I don't
that will
remember
be,
talking about that.
that will be something, to determine too. I'm not gonna have, not everybody is necessarily capable of doing that, so, so that will be determined as well. Yeah, we don't have, we don't have a big enough staff like, Sioux Falls, that, we can have 1 or 2 people that's their job. So we do share it here. I post some things, Jean posts some things, Rachel posts some things, Max posts some things, but, one thing about that is then it's a little.
Diverse.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say hodgepodgey.
We'll go with diverse.
But,
But I think that's okay, I really.
well, then, and the families that follow the children, they know what to expect from Jean's posts, or, and Jean posts her things, so. And, if Max is going to post something geared toward teens, hopefully it's going to be, some graphics that would
Right.
be of interest to them. So, goal B, maximize library space. So the strategies, reorganize the collection to create more space for children's collection. And then we have, the implementation of that, of what we want to do by the end of this year and next year. And then we also will reorganize the collection to create space for an intermediate collection. Some refer to that as a tween. We don't like using that term, but, so kind of that, 11 to 13 or so. And so, we have ideas for that. So similar implementation strategies for that. Install better lighting, and so that'll be going on this year. painting will be part of that. Provide a drive-up book return. Now, this one is a bit more fluid, or in terms of, we are going to determine the feasibility of moving the book return to a drive-up location. First, that'll be, and then if we do determine it's feasible, because we'll have to work probably with City Public Works, what kind of problems, even with, when the streets are plowed, will having a book return right there at the curb
Could you put it inside the parking lot?
cause any problems? That would be a similar thing, yeah. Would there be a place in the parking lot? Yeah. I mean, but where in the parking lot, and how does that affect traffic patterns in the parking lot? And, I mean, so those are all the questions that will have to be determined. And probably where it would go in the parking lot is in the winter, where they like pile snow up before they, they're big, because they don't remove the snow from the parking lot. They make a big pile, and once there's a huge pile, and then it's going to start overflowing into
Think of it
the
being
alley.
along that
So,
west side there, where the steps go up to the back, like somewhere there, because even if you
Yeah.
can't drive up to there, at least you can drive up close to it and drop.
and you don't have to,
But
yeah.
I'm
What if we
So,
did like County Fair for their cart thing and put it in a parking spot?
we can't take away a car parking spot. That parking lot's so small anyway. So, and it will get hit. If we would put it out in a parking spot, it would get run over.
But I mean, like, yeah, never mind.
So, anyway, but.
Susan is not coming out.
So
Just
that's
totally
why,
relaxed.
I mean, we have it as there, that's gonna be determine the feasibility first before. Investigate offering digital periodicals via Overdrive Libby, and so we'll be doing that this year yet, because then we would be shifting some of our periodicals budget towards digital periodicals. And so the implementation strategies for that, and then investigate options for conducting a space analysis. So, looking at kind of what we need to do, determine the scope of what a space analysis would be, identifying consultants who specialize in that type of thing, draft a document for requesting of information or proposal, obtaining that proposal, and then submitting funding requests for a consultant, to the city, through the city budget process. And so, that'll be kind of dependent on then, eventually, if we get the money for that. Then goal C, expanding library programming, offering more YA programming, and the things that we will do to work on that, offering more adult programming and the things we'll do to work on that, and then partnering with external organizations to offer programs. And, an example of that already is Jean working, or, we're partnering with the Area Arts Council to bring the arts bus in. So, we are, doing that already. But, in 2026, the goal will be to schedule at least 6 partner programs. And then requesting funding to hire an additional library position. And so that, I think, is going to take a little bit more time, and we need to achieve some of the earlier ones of adding more programming, getting more participation, to say, look, we're busier, we have more people and more programs that we're doing, and more people coming to those programs. We need, more help. So that's there. And then goal D, the last goal, increase outreach. And so establishing a pop-up library that, we talk about doing in 2026, but I mean, quite honestly, we'll probably be starting that, when we go to the First Friday events this year, because we have some of the pieces of that already purchased and in place, so. And then develop better connections with area schools. Max has worked and he, making connections to English teachers at the Mitchell High School. And when I first wrote this, it was kind of, it was develop better connections with the, local high school. And then I thought we need to expand that to include Mitchell Christian. And since we get funding from the county, Ethan and Mount Vernon schools are in the county. And so, we would be looking at, doing some presentations and working with them too. So that, and then we have listed the committee members, and again, I included Zach because he was on the committee for almost a year before he left, and then Rachel took his place, and and then the library board members are listed as well. So that is the strategic plan that we came up with. Any questions, comments?
Just a random question. The little free library that's downtown, is that still functional, going strong?
And every time I drive past, I look to see, and I mean, this week, there are books in there, so, I mean, we haven't had to fill it over the winter. It hasn't been as used as much, but, as we get towards summer season, I'm sure that more books will be going out of there, and we'll need to put more books in.
Thank you all for your work on this. It's beautiful.
So if y'all approve it, then we'll publish it and get working on it.
Seek a motion?
Move to approve.
I'll second it. I didn't want to make the motion because I'm on the committee. So
Well, you?
I figured.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed and carried. We're official.
Thank you.
Strategic plan. On to item.
Finally, Diana, we have it.
On to item number 8, committee reports. Do we have any, other than the strategic planning committee?
Yeah, and that was kind of the committee
That was
report there,
it.
so.
Any board input for the good of the board?
Thank you to the board and to the library staff for the cards.
Okay, before we adjourn, we should set a date for the next meeting. Will it be May 20th
May 20th at 5:15.
here at City Council?
Mhm.
Okay.
did we cancel the April?
Oh, we haven't talked about it.
Okay.
I guess I haven't thought of, what training we could do, but certainly if you all want to do training, that third Tuesday, I mean, we can get something planned, and have it at the library.
I was just thinking you sent us an
Because we
email. Did you send us-
probably won't do training over the summer, during summer reading programs. So, I mean, April would be a good month to do training. The state library, last year held training, regional training, at our library in March or in April. And we used that, as anybody, and I think Denny had participated in at least a couple of those, but, with their, that proposed budget cut back in even December or January, they told me that it was so unknown that what was going on that they wouldn't be planning training for this spring, because they may have other things to do to reduce the size of the state library. So, but, we can certainly do some, come up with a topic And if anybody has an idea that you would be more interested in, or we can come up with a topic too of what we can do training on.
Could we do like a library tour again that night? Just, have there been any updates or anything since the last time the board visited?
No, but maybe by then we'll have the painting done of the soffit.
We haven't done the tour though since all the children's books and all those new shelves and things have been put in, have we?
Okay,
I mean,
so,
I've been
yeah.
there.
Is there Library Appreciation Month or anything? Is there
Well,
anything-
that's in April.
Could we do a library appreciation and like bring cookies, and could we designate money from the board to host a library appreciation event?
Yeah, that's normally,
That night?
I'm so bad at planning those types of things. I'm not a social planner.
Neither am I, but I like
But you-
cookies.
So,
And it's good to make people feel.
so let me, look, because I think that's normally the first week in April.
Well,
I'll
as long as
figure
it
out the
would be in
dates, but then
April.
we can, but it would be good to have it during then, and then we could, and actually, I mean, we could, do kind of a joint training / even have the library board members, just, I mean, we could train you how to check out books and have you check
That'd
out
be
books to
fun.
people.
Never
And say,
done that before.
honorary book check outers for,
April 6th to the 12th is National Library Week.
yeah, so that first week,
It's coming right up.
That's not far away.
training. April 6th to the 12th.
12th.
So we will plan something for that week, probably that Tuesday or Thursday. I'll send a date finder out though for that week to see what people, what day would work
April
best.
4th is the National School Librarian Day, so
Oh.
it's right in the middle there.
April,
4th.
Important day.
but, so that's before the April 6th
I
to
guess.
the, yeah. Because this April 6th, is that like Saturday or Sunday to Saturday?
Sunday to Saturday.
Yeah. So the 8th or the 10th, maybe. Or, it could also be something where each one of you could come in on a different day. I mean, and we can train you individually and say, okay, we're going to have the library board check out books for people and put them to work.
There you go.
Rachel seems to be your party planner. Perhaps she could come up with
So,
some kind of festivities.
yeah.
I think if
That
you're,
would be
if you're gonna
good.
do some more social media, there could be some social media opportunities.
Yeah.
We take some pictures and have Jean and her puppet.
Well,
giving
and.
Kevin a kiss on the cheek.
And I have the authority to spend up to $500, so, I mean, I don't know that we would need, but we could get some cookies and have them, that week to hand out to people.
Yeah, I think it'd be a nice gesture.
So,
Put some balloons out front.
The wind never goes down.
If the wind ever goes
Call the
down.
newspaper, come take pictures. and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have, maybe the mayor could do a proclamation for Mitchell Library Day.
oh, we're still kind of, well, we're not officially to citizens input, or we're, there's been no more follow-up on, if you all remember that article that was in the paper about the library back in February. So I replied or I sent an email response to the journalist and to Luke, and I didn't get any reply back from them. I just said, that I thought that there were some inaccuracies, and, it would be nice. And Marshall did stop, he was in the library for personal use, and then he just said to me, I owe you a response, but I still haven't had any response. So,
Fun idea for the party could be an honorary librarian name tag for people who have a little free library.
For people who what?
Have a little free library.
Oh, there you go.
Be honorary library.
well, so then you all would get one because you all sponsored the
Oh, there
little
we
free
go.
library across the
I
street.
always wanted to be an honorary librarian.
I always wanted to be a librarian.
Right, me too. Me too.
Me too.
Yeah.
They're hiring
dream
in
came true.
2027. I'm ready.
Let's hope.
Okay. Any other comments for the good of the cause? If not, we'll adjourn the meeting,
At 6:24.
6:24.
All right, and you can mute your mics.
You can stack up all the pictures and then just use them.